We mentioned the other day that the UN had reported that we are, or that Yemen, I should say, is on the brink of an unprecedented, at least within the last several decades, famine that is a function of largely of the war that is being waged on Yemen, and now the blockade that is being implemented by Saudi Arabia and its backed allies. And
well, the airport, there's no aid can get in anymore, humanitarian aid through the airport.
And not the least of which is us, who is allowing us to refueling their jets.
And sell them weapons.
And thank you. And sell their weapons. So here's Chris Murphy on the floor of the Senate arguing that we are complicit in these war crimes.
I mentioned that the blockade is being run by the Saudi-led coalition. The United States is a member of that coalition. For 2 years, the United States has been aiding the government of Saudi Arabia in a bombing campaign of the Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen. That bombing campaign has caused this outbreak of cholera. Why is that? The bombing campaign deliberately targeted the electricity grid of Yemen in and around Sana'a, which is the capital controlled today by the Houthis. The water treatment facility runs on the electricity from that grid. And so, as you can read in a lengthy story in the New York Times from 2 days ago, the country now no longer has the ability to treat water that goes to its capital because the Saudi-led bombing campaign has knocked out electricity, because the fuel that has helped temporarily run the water treatment facility is no longer available either, because the Saudi-led bombing campaign has targeted the infrastructure that allows for fuel to be delivered. So today, the water is undrinkable. It is toxic. And yet, because there aren't other supplies of water, millions of Yemenis are ingesting it, are eating food that is also toxic because of the inability to treat water, because of the flow of sewage and feces throughout the capital city. And almost 1 million people have contracted cholera. Jesus. That bombing campaign that targeted the electricity infrastructure in Yemen could only happen with U.S. support. It is the United States that provides the targeting assistance for the Saudi planes. It is U.S. refueling planes flying in the sky around Yemen that restock the Saudi fighter jets with fuel, allowing them to drop more ordnance. It is U.S.-made and transferred ordnance that is carried on these planes and are dropped on civilian and infrastructure targets inside Yemen. The United States is part of this coalition. The bombing campaign that has caused the cholera outbreak could not happen without us.
And we should say this is orchestrated by the same crown prince who is supposedly engaging in an anti-corruption purge, or I guess maybe this took place last week, but is being feted as being more modern and by the press. And did we talk about that with Dan on this program, or maybe it was on Ring of Fire that we had that conversation? But good for Chris Murphy.
I know, and among other things, he's been great. And I'll say he doesn't want Donald Trump to have sole ability with the nuclear capability. He talks about him being unstable. But this is what I'm talking about. These things, and that picture is so heartbreaking to see. That's a woman too, holding a child, and her rights are just as important as any of the other stories that are leading right now. And that's what I'm saying. As we discuss these things, quite rightly, children are dying of dehydration and cholera like it's the Victorian era. And this isn't the first, nor will it be the last time the United States is complicit in such a big way with this.
Right.
And yet we never, ever want to talk about that in the mainstream media. Never discussion of that kind of thing.
Well, and it's also it's a function of good for Murphy because largely the idea that a senator who is deeply involved in foreign policy in this country would be saying that on the floor of the Senate at this point because
it's unusual.
Saudi Arabia has always been sort of
right. Well, they've been had a special relationship, especially with the Bushes, and they were everything covered up in the 9/11 investigation about Saudi Arabia.
But through this new prince, though, that it's definitely the Bushes are really tight, but there has been nobody who hasn't been, except for maybe Chris Murphy or Bernie Sanders, who hasn't been compromised by a Saudi relationship.
Yeah.
And even Richard Clark,
Yes.
who helped reveal
oh no, I
that
understand
stuff.
that. This has been going on for years.
Yeah, but I'm saying now specifically, like Richard Clark, even specifically, is someone who through the it's an ambassador from the United Arab Emirates who's moved a lot of money
Yes.
into these think
I
tanks.
spoke to Grimm about this on Ring of
Oh,
Fire.
on Ring
People
of
can
Fire.
check it
Okay,
out.
yeah,
Yes.
definitely how the whole think tank world has been totally compromised by this guy, and the fact that they would cover it as an anti-corruption drive is like pretty astonishing.
Tons of cash involved in this. You can make a lot of friends by having hundreds of billions of dollars.
Well, that's the
of oil
advantage
money.
Is
that
that
golf
true?
has.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Can I also take this opportunity to remind people about the bipartisan nature of military interventionism? Like, Trump didn't get us involved in this shit.
No, of course.
Thank you for that.
Started under Obama.
Thank you for that.
I think Obama basically, the Saudis were so pissed because of the Iran deal, they were just like, all right, look, if you want to go destroy Yemen, sure. Like, don't, this will be your kind of like way to stop complaining.
About Iran.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes. Didn't work out so well.
None of the things that they've tried to do in the region have worked out so well.
No. Hi, folks. Sam Cedar here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos